Right now on Good Morning America First Look, extreme weather impacting millions, a powerful storm ripping apart homes in the Southwest, mandatory evacuations in parts of California, and in the East, the flooding and a rescue in stormy seas during a deadly nor'easter.
The emotional reunions as the Israeli hostages finally go home. But what's next in the Middle East peace process? What President Trump said overnight about a possible two-state solution for the Palestinians.
Your money. The new tariffs taking effect today as a new report warns about rising prices.
New research on the effect social media is having on children and their brains, just as Instagram rolls out a big change for teenagers today.
Caught on camera, a car slamming into a restaurant on Miami Beach. The people inside fleeing.
Was it suicide or murder? A major development in the mystery surrounding a young teacher's stabbing death.
Later, Pope Leo and what he was reportedly caught doing at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And a real family affair. 3 brothers on one team making history in professional sports.
From ABC News, this is Good Morning America First Look.
Good Tuesday morning to you, everyone. I'm Faith Abubey.
And I'm Stephanie Ramos. We begin with extreme weather from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Everything from deadly and historic flooding to destructive winds, leaving people homeless.
This morning, this is the damage after a sudden and powerful storm known as a microburst tore through Tempe, Arizona. High winds ripping the roof off this business. The semi-truck flipped on its side. Homes also damaged, trees crushing this apartment complex. More than 130 people now displaced.
I don't even know, where I'm going to live. My building is uninhabitable.
The zoo in nearby Phoenix forced to close due to flooding and uprooted trees. Across the border in Mexico, torrential rain and landslides killing at least 64 people. What comes next is the concern in Los Angeles, where people are bracing for heavy rain and possible mudslides in areas still recovering from January's wildfires. Some mandatory evacuations now ordered. Thousands of miles north, record flooding in parts of Alaska. Homes swept off their foundations. Dozens of people had to be rescued. And on the East Coast, a powerful nor'easter turning deadly. A woman in New York was killed after heavy winds blew a solar panel off a carport. Streets were swamped from Ocean City, Maryland to the New Jersey shore. The choppy seas making for a daring rescue off Cape Cod. Crews pulling a man to safety after he was spotted in the water by a nearby ferry.
Officials would not confirm if the man who was in the water was a ferry passenger. And as for that record storm in Alaska, at least 2 people are still missing this morning.
Now to the Middle East and what President Trump said overnight about the next step in the peace process. Amid concerns and doubts about the future, we're seeing more emotional reunions after 20 Israeli hostages were finally set free. Here's ABC's Lionel Moise.
Emotional reunions with the final 20 living hostages in Gaza released by Hamas after 2 years in captivity. Including this couple, videos seen worldwide of their abduction on October 7th. She was rescued by the IDF last year, her boyfriend finally back home. As part of the ceasefire, nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners were also released. And a somber moment with caskets arriving containing the remains of 4 hostages. But Hamas had agreed to return the remains of all 28 hostages who died, including 2 Americans. Some now questioning if this could be a violation of the ceasefire deal. President Trump, returning from the Middle East, spoke about the complicated road ahead. He would not commit to a 2-state solution for the Palestinians.
I'm not talking about single state or double state or 2-state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
More than 20 world leaders gathered for yesterday's historic peace summit and signing of the ceasefire agreement, but noticeably absent were Israel and Hamas, and the memorandum appeared largely symbolic and vague, reading, "We hereby commit to the resolution of future disputes through diplomatic engagement and negotiation rather than through force or protracted conflict." One big question going forward, will Hamas be willing to give up its weapons? President Trump says Hamas has been given approval to rearm to serve as a Palestinian police force for a period of time.
I don't see any scenario in which Hamas is going to 100% willingly give up all their arms to the Israelis.
Trump's peace plan ultimately says Hamas cannot play a role in the future governance of Gaza. Who will is now up for negotiation. The process set to once again test the resiliency of the people of Gaza.
People talk often about the resilience of Palestinians, and particularly those in Gaza, and I think it's the resourcefulness and the steadfastness and the energy and the perseverance. They don't want to go anywhere. They want to stay and they want to rebuild.
And former President Biden commended President Trump for getting the ceasefire deal over the finish line, also expressing hope for enduring peace. Faith, Stephanie?
Lionel, thank you. SpaceX says the latest test flight of its Starship rocket was a complete success. Elon Musk's company launching the rocket last night from the Texas coast. The huge rocket climbing to the edge of space and then deploying 8 fake satellites. Then, as planned, it exploded as it came down into the Indian Ocean. SpaceX says this is the second straight successful test flight. The goal here is for the Starship to carry astronauts to the moon and eventually to Mars.
Pretty neat. Turning to the economy, new tariffs take effect today on some common household products as a new report warns American consumers about rising prices. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has the details. Nicole, good morning.
Stephanie, good morning to you. Stocks were higher on Wall Street yesterday as President Trump softens his tone on China. Still, some new tariffs take effect today, and American consumers are bearing the cost.
As new tariffs take effect today, a new report finds Americans, at least for now, are absorbing the majority of the extra costs. According to Goldman Sachs, U.S. consumers will absorb 55% of tariff costs by the end of the year. American businesses, just 22%. Foreign exporters, 18%. New tariffs take effect today on kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, upholstered furniture, and lumber. The White House insists tariffs will have major economic benefits in the long term, saying, quote, while Americans may face a transition period from tariffs, the cost of tariffs will ultimately be borne by foreign exporters. Meanwhile, as the federal government shutdown enters its third week, the Treasury Secretary says the economy is starting to feel the effects.
This is getting serious. It's starting to affect the real economy. We are having to hold back on some payments so that the brave men and women in the U.S. military can get paid.
Democrats are demanding Obamacare subsidies be extended to keep health care costs from rising. But the House Speaker says he won't negotiate until Democrats agree to reopen the government.
We're barreling toward one of the longest shutdowns in American history.
The American people want us to reopen the government. They want bipartisan negotiations, and they want the Congress to address the health care crisis that is devastating them.
Millions of federal workers have now received their final paycheck, and the Trump administration has fired more than 4,000 federal workers, including many inside the Department of Education. Sources say the special education staff has been decimated.
Every minute counts, every service counts, and this time wasted, it will change their trajectory to become independent adults.
And overnight, we learned dozens of federal employees that work on substance abuse and mental health have also been laid off. Faith.
Nicole, thank you. Good news about gas prices. They could soon drop below $3 per gallon for the first time since the pandemic. Right now, the current national average, $3.04. That's 13 cents down in the last month.
It's time now for your Tuesday weather.
Good morning, everyone. The nor'easter finally moving away from the East Coast. Some lingering coastal flooding, parts of the Jersey Shore up into New England. Really quiet from the southeast up through parts of the Midwest, and warm as well. Temperatures in the 80s, even some lower 90s in Austin, Texas. But the big weather story, system moving on to the West Coast, providing flooding rainfall near Los Angeles during the day today, and maybe feet of snow, multiple feet of snow in parts of the Sierra Nevada as that storm continues heading off into the Rocky Mountains. Meteorologist Jeff Smith, ABC News.
Coming up here on GMA First Look, a wild crash in Miami Beach.
But first, was it suicide or murder? The mystery surrounding a young teacher's stabbing death intensifies.
And later, a new kind of gold rush.
We're back with a fiery plane crash on a busy highway in Massachusetts. Jet fuel and debris were scattered across Interstate 195. Investigators say a Rhode Island couple on that plane was killed. The plane also hit a car and that driver was taken to the hospital. A new video shows the moment of Sunday's deadly plane crash near Fort Worth, Texas. It came down in the backlot of a business, hitting several tractor trailers. Authorities say the 2 people on that plane were killed.
We turn now to a major development in a mystery that's the subject of a popular series on Hulu. The case involves the death of a young teacher in Philadelphia. At issue, was it suicide or murder?
This morning, the family of Ellen Greenberg is slamming the Philadelphia medical examiner after the first-grade teacher's stabbing death was ruled a suicide for a second time.
They did everything they possibly could to stand in our way. Instead of helping us.
Greenberg died in 2011. The 27-year-old was found at home, stabbed at least 20 times around her head, neck, back, and heart. Her body covered in bruises.
My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
Is this a house or apartment?
Oh no! Oh no!
Police were initially looking for a killer before the medical examiner stunned Greenberg's family by changing the cause of death to suicide. The decision sparking a years-long battle to get the case re-examined. Now, a new report reconfirms Greenberg died by suicide. According to Chief Medical Examiner Lindsay Simon, Greenberg, quote, would be capable of inflicting these injuries herself, adding there was no sign of struggle or an intruder, and there were no defensive wounds. The report also claims a stab wound that could not have been self-inflicted was actually an injury caused during the initial autopsy. The medical examiner also notes Greenberg was suffering from anxiety and says there was no trace of her fiance's DNA on the knife. The Greenberg family's attorney outraged, saying the medical examiner was answering the wrong question.
Dr. Simon misunderstood the assignment. The question for the ME was never whether he did it, it was whether she did, right? It's not her job to find a murderer, only determine whether or not there's been a murder.
The Hulu series about the case, Death in Apartment 603, What Happened to Ellen Greenberg, is streaming on Disney+.
All right, coming up, how social media is affecting the performance of children in school.
Also ahead, dramatic moments in court as a grandmother is sentenced for the murder of her former son-in-law. Frightening moments in Miami Beach. Take a look at this. A Tesla slamming into the patio of this restaurant, knocking over palm trees, some tables there. 3 men apparently ran from that scene carrying luggage. 2 have been taken into custody.
A gorilla at the San Diego Zoo caused a big scare, running towards the viewing area and then cracking 1 layer of that tempered glass. Witnesses describe it as terrifying. The gorilla will be cared for behind the scenes while the glass is replaced.
A Florida grandmother has been sentenced to life in prison for her role in a murder-for-hire scheme to kill her former son-in-law. The judge saying Donna Adelson showed an utter lack of remorse for the death of Dan Markell. The law professor was shot in his driveway back in 2014. He and Adelson's daughter were in the middle of a custody fight. Before her sentencing, the 75-year-old insisted she had nothing to do with the murder.
They claimed that I, this grandma, was the mastermind behind the murder. I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short.
Before her arrest, Adelson allegedly tried to leave the country. She's the last of 5 people convicted in the case, and she plans to appeal.
And we turn now to new research on the effect that social media is having on kids and their brains, just as Instagram rolls out a big change for teenagers today.
A new warning for parents about how social media is affecting preteens. Researchers finding the more time kids spend on sites like TikTok and Instagram, the lower their scores on reading and memory tests. Even just 1 hour a day on social media was found to have an impact.
This not only shows us that a small amount of social media can actually potentially interfere with learning, with school performance, but also that there's a dosage effect. So the more social media these kids are using, the worse they're doing.
The study of students ages 9 to 13 found about 1 hour per day on social media led to test scores 1 or 2 points lower. Those spending more time on social media saw a 4 to 5 point drop. While a few points may not seem like a big deal, doctors warn teens' social media use increases as they age, meaning more risks down the road.
We are essentially putting an entire generation of kids in an uncontrolled experiment with the amount of social media that's out there, with how addictive these phones are, and all of it ties together. And who knows what could potentially happen in 5, in 10, in 20 years.
Just yesterday, California became the latest state to require warning labels on certain social media sites when kids log on. Tech companies have defended their safeguards when it comes to kids online. Effective today, Instagram says it's limiting what teens can see and do on the platform. It says if a user under 18 searches for an adult topic or an account that typically posts content deemed inappropriate for minors, that content will now be blocked.
We really are striving for teens to be able to have an experience on Instagram that a parent would understand to be a PG-13 experience.
And that new study found nearly 2/3 of kids begin using social media before they're even 13 years old.
They're too young. You got to hold off for as long as possible, not mature enough. Coming up, 3 brothers on one team, the history made in professional sports.
Plus, what Pope Leo has been doing in the middle of the night. Time to check the pulse. We begin with a true family affair in the NBA.
Yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks now have 3 brothers in their organization. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a 2-time league MVP. His brother, Giannis, has been with the Bucks the past 5 years.
And now their youngest brother, Alex, has also signed to the Bucks. It's the first time in NBA history that 3 brothers have been on the same team at the same time.
Talent runs in the family. Turning to Monday Night Football, Bijan Robinson of the Falcons was running wild. His 170 yards included an 81-yard touchdown run. Look at that. The Falcons upset the Bills 24-14.
And in the other game, the Bears' new kicker, Jake Moody, beat the Commanders with the 4th field goal of the game as time expired. The Bears won 25-24. Next, a bizarre double play in the Dodgers-Brewers playoff game.
The bases were loaded for the Dodgers when Max Muncy hit a deeply fly to the center. The ball bounces off of Sal Frelick's glove and off the fence. He throws it home and gets the out. Then the ball is thrown to third and the Brewers get another out. An amazing play, but the Dodgers, they still won. Congrats. Next, a new kind of gold rush.
More amateurs were buying pans and picks to go gold digging. And that's because gold prices have actually hit record highs, prices hitting $4,000 an ounce.
Wow. All right, next, Pope Leo and his surprising activity at 3 a.m. Stay with us. Stay with us.
Yeah, the new Pope is still an eager student. He's reportedly been logging onto the language learning app Duolingo, including in the middle of the night to work on improving his Italian.
Look at that. Just a little side hobby. The Vatican not confirming his activities. We'll be right back. Checking more top stories, Republicans in North Carolina plan to redraw their state's congressional maps to gain a seat following the lead of GOP lawmakers in Texas and Missouri. North Carolina's governor, a Democrat, would not be able to veto the move.
And a defiant Letitia James made her first public appearance since being indicted by the Trump administration without mentioning the president by name. New York's Attorney General vowed to fight her prosecution. James was indicted for alleged mortgage fraud weeks after President Trump demanded that his political enemies face justice.
President Trump will posthumously award conservative activist Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom today in a White House ceremony. Kirk, you may remember, was fatally shot last month during a college event in Utah. Today would have been his 32nd birthday.
Today's weather, lingering rain in the northeast, rain and mountain snow in the southwest, and the risk for mudslides triggering evacuations in parts of Southern California.
And finally, this next guy is one hairy guy.
Yeah, he's got the hair and the beard, and now he's got a world record. He spoke to Danny New.
In the Santa Claus, Tim Allen's beard grows in seconds, but for an Alabama man named, actually, Rudolph.
When did you reach the point of like, oh, I could maybe break a record with this?
Probably about the 8th year.
After more than a decade of growing out his beard, 59-year-old Rudolph Martino just set the Guinness World Record for the longest natural beard locks.
When does the feeling stop as you work down the beard?
Probably halfway.
Guinness has the record listed at 3.5 feet, but Rudolph says he applied in January of 2024 with that length. So, while Guinness was doing all the necessary research...
But over that period of time, it's now 4 feet long. Yeah.
But this personal trainer actually began this journey about 20 years ago when he, brace for it, started growing out his hair.
It actually was a statement for me. It was like a sign of rebellion.
Rudolph says he began growing out the beard to complement his hair, which now measures out to 8 feet.
Sometimes I used to have pains in my neck or in my shoulders because it's so much. I'm sure it weighs some pounds, a lot of pounds.
Another pain? Rudolph says he has to keep his beard tucked into his shirt so it doesn't get caught in the car door. However, despite that hassle, Rudolph insists he is never going to cut the beard because it is a part of him now. After all, it did help launch him into the record books, which then got this reaction from his 13-year-old son, Eamon.
Oh, he was excited. He was saying, my dad, he was glad for me. My dad is known around the world.
Guys, if you're wondering, Rudolph says he washes the beard every 2 weeks and the hair every 3 weeks, which he says can take days to dry. And overall, he says the hair is harder to take care of.
And I actually was wondering.
Yeah, it takes dedication. That's your Good Morning America First Look.
Have a great day.